have got a specific sort of structure of this area, you'll see that we have got another area in research with the name of literature review. From over there, we take number of previous studies that are there. Then next thing is research questions, right? These are very important sort of we can say that thing in a particular sort of research. Research question is actually the area that is actually based on your research questions and answers, right? This is the area where your research we can say that try to give the answer, right, to several sort of questions, right? We usually pose 3 to 4 questions in this section if we talk about the level that you are in, right? So you see that next comes the research objectives. While this is something natural that the moment we are doing something, we must have some objectives in our mind. So keeping in view all those objectives, we can talk about our objectives in this section. So you'll see that you are dealing with a rough sort of sketch in this particular proposal, right? And one more important thing about proposal is that it usually is written in future tense. The reason is this, that it is a proposed sort of work. It is not your actual study, right? We have earlier discussed that it can make or break your study later on. So you will see that next comes significance of the research, that how much fruitful your research is going to be, right? So you see that how much significant it is, how it is going to help the future researchers, how it is going to help different teachers, students, right? So you have to mention this thing in the area of significance of the research. Then comes literature review, right? The moment we have talked about niche or gap, how we can find the gap with the help of this section, literature review. Literature review is actually based on the works of previous candidates, those researchers or researchers, right? So you see that how different candidates, they have worked on the same topic at which you people are now going to deal with, right? So you usually quote different authors. In proposal, usually we take 3 to 4 authors in this section, writers or works, right? So this can be called as literature review. By literature review, we mean that the review of previous studies, prior studies, right? Next comes research methodology. Methodology, we mean that the systematic plan of something, that how we are going to conduct our research. What would be the methodology? What would be the design that we are going to follow? What type of research would be the part of my study? Whether it would be qualitative, quantitative, experimental, mixed, right? So we'll talk about them in detail later on. Then comes data collection and data analysis. This is the area where you usually talk about that how you are going to collect your data, what would be your tool, and how you are going to analyze and present it, right? Results and findings, right? This is the section where we usually talk about the results that our study is actually going to give us, expected to going to give us, right? So you usually, how you are going to present your results and how you are going to give the findings that are there of your study, you have to talk about this in this section. Earlier we have talked about research questions. Usually we answer those questions in this section of finding, right? Then comes conclusion. Conclusion is, as you know, that this is the last part of your research, that the area where we are going to wrap up our topic or study, right? So we have to give conclusion with the help of several techniques. We can add, we can say that several recommendations for the future researchers as well, and we can present the findings sometimes as well in the area of conclusion. So usually you wind up your whole study in this section that is called as conclusion, right? Then comes references. Now references is a very important sort of we can say that area that is the part of any academic writing, right? References, why we use references, we will talk about it later on, and in the citation type, right? Next comes writing tips. So here are some of the writing tips that usually will help you to write the proposal or research thesis, right? Whatsoever you are in the area. So you have to choose a style of writing firstly. By style of writing, we mean the way I am going to present my written material. This is very important. How I am going to, we can say that, put it in the form of words, right? You'll see that the moment you are writing a research proposal or a research thesis, you have to adopt a particular, we can say that, methodology with the help of which you have to follow a particular sort of style, right? And academic style, if we talk about academic styles, so popular citation style or referencing style, writing styles, we have MLA, APA, and Chicago. There are so many, but out of these we usually follow in this section MLA or APA, Chicago, etc. So you will see that MLA stands for Modern Language Association, and usually with the English literature, foreign language communications, and religious studies, we usually adopt this style of writing MLA, right? Then comes APA. Again, this is again our section, and the departments like psychology, education, business, economics, nursing, linguistic studies, these usually take or adopt this style that is called as APA. APA stands for American Psychological Association, right? So you see that later on I'm going to give you some of the tips on APA as well. So manual is with me, you can take it from me later on at the end. Then comes Chicago, usually history, art history, fine arts, anthropology and philosophy. These sort of, we can say that areas usually they adopt this type of style. Then comes the research thesis itself, right? So now this is the area that is very, we can say that interesting plus difficult for the future researchers as well. So we'll talk about research thesis over here. So you see that what is research thesis? Now this is the question. So is there anyone who can tell me what do we mean by the term thesis itself? You might have read, you might have discussed it number of times. Yes, is there anyone who can tell me what do we mean by the term thesis? Yes? Anyone from the audience? Students? Yes? Exactly. It's what actually, it's a document. अगर आप इसको general sense में देखें, if you talk about it generally, it's a document, right? Systematic sort of document, and it's your mind's child. I have written a phrase over here. Your mind's child. Why I have called it as your mind's child? Because this is the area where you are creating something. The moment you are creating something, it means you are going to give birth a particular child, right? It's very much like that. Exactly. The moment you create something, your mind has got this ability that it is very creative. That's why we are actually called as we can say that crown of creature. Just because of our disability, ability to think, ability to create something, right? So this is the area where we have to create a particular sort of written work. So that's why I am saying that it's your mind's child, because you are creating that work. Is it clear? Then comes the next area, that what would be the structure of a thesis? Thesis is actually, it's very much like a term that is related to, you might have heard number of terms related to thesis, like dissertations and theses, and right, there are so many things that are now the part of our education system. So you'll see that what would be the structure of a thesis as that we usually follow. So you'll see that it is divided into three main sections. First one can be called as prelims or preliminary pages. Preliminary pages will mean the introductory part of your research thesis. Then comes your chapters, and then references and appendix or appendices. So this is your whole thesis in general, right? So now we are particularly moving towards these areas. First comes preliminary pages. Again, preliminary pages are based on number of things. So you'll see that preliminary pages has got, so this is actually the shape of a particular thesis, you might have seen number of times. So you'll see that first part is title page. Title page, I mean this, right? This is the title page, and it is, you can see that it is comprises of number of elements. You see that there is a title, then the monogram, then comes the name of the name of the researcher, then the name of supervisor, plus then the name of department, institute, etc. Right? So this is your title page. Then comes inner title page. It's very much like we can say that the outer title page. जस्ट ये हार्ड बाइंडिंग की फॉर्म में होता है, वो इंटरनल पेजेस की फॉर्म में होता है. द ओनली डिफरेंस इज दिस. Then comes dedication. Dedication is the area where you want to dedicate your research, right, study. Whosoever is actually near to you, or we can say that he or she can be your friend, family member, anyone, right? So this is the section usually where you give the dedication, where you usually dedicate your thesis, right? Then comes approval sheet. Approval sheet is again an area that is based on number of things, like where you usually take the signatures of your supervisor, your teachers, or we can say that external and internal examiners, right? There are several parts. You can take later on the exact format of your preliminary pages from me as well. Then next is declaration. Declaration is the area, this is again another prelim, the area that is related to preliminary pages or prelims, that is based on the declaration. Declaration will mean that this thing is not copied from someone else or something. It's very much like a certificate where you usually declare that this work is your, right, this is genuine one and this is your own, right? Then comes abstract. Abstract we mean the, we can call it as crux of something, right? The summary of something, the summary of your whole research is actually usually written in this area of abstract, right? So it is usually based on three again things: what you did, how you did, and what was the outcome of that. So usually we try to answer three different questions in this area. Then next important area is acknowledgements, right? This is the area where you usually give your thanks to those candidates who assist you during your research. They can be your teachers, your colleagues, your friends, your classmates, so your supervisors or anyone else, right? Whosoever have helped you during this whole process, right? So this is the area where we usually acknowledge them. So next important area is list of tables and figures. If lists and figures are the part of your research, then you can, it's optional one, right? So you can add it over there. And the last part is table of contents, right? So these are the preliminary pages, and we usually do keep this in mind that we usually format them in Roman numberings, right? So it should be look like prelims, right? So it is something based on this area. Now, if we talk about more about the structure of, we can say that thesis itself, it is based on 5 different chapters. Chapter 1, we can call it as, they have got specific names and we usually write them in this sequence as well. First comes introduction, then comes literature review, chapter 2, chapter number 3 is research methodology, chapter number 4 is actually data collection and analysis, and chapter 5 is related to conclusion. So now chapter number 1, chapter number 1 is actually introduction. So you see that it is again, if you have written proposal in a very organized sort of manner, then you see that your proposal will be converted automatically in your chapter number 1. All the elements, all the ingredients that are there in your proposal, they are the part of actually your, we can say that chapter number 1, that is introduction. You people are getting the point, right? So you see that background of the study, this would be the first and the important ingredient that we can usually follow in this section. So again, I have earlier explained in the area of proposal that you can add background of your study, that how you are, what would be the background of your study. Then comes statement of the problem. Again, I told you that from the area of literature review, you usually quote number of other works in this section, previous studies, so that you can identify your gap, right? So this is the area where you indicate the niche of your research, that where lies the gap, why I am actually dealing with this problem. You are getting the point? Then statement of the problem. Actually, you are stating problem itself over here. You are creating a problem over there in this section. That's why this is called as statement of the problem. Then comes delimitation of the study. Again, we have talked about it earlier in proposal. So you see that as it is the part of proposal as well, and now it is shifted in chapter number 1. Delimitation, again narrowing down your topic, how you are going to put the filters on your topic, how you are going to deal with it in a specific sort of manner, right? We move the things usually from general to the specific in this section, that I am going to delimit my topic with the help of these and these filters, right? We will talk about these filters later on. Then research questions. Again, your study is always based on 3 to 4 questions that your research answers, right? So we usually write just the questions in this section. That can be 3 to 4, and usually we take these questions from our topic, right? We can call it as that our research topic is based on several questions. It has got several themes. Out of those themes, we can generate several research questions. Then comes research objectives. So again, I earlier talked about this, that our research, or we can say that everything that is there is based on some aims, objectives, goals. So we have to keep in mind those research objectives, and we usually write in this section. Then comes chapter number 2, that is literature review. Literature review is actually, you will see that it is a study that is based on your prior studies, right? I have written that 10 to 15 different things we usually quote in this section. 10 to 15 different works, 10 to 15 different authors, right? Prior studies that we usually take in this area, and this is the area that actually creates a sort of bulk in our research studies, right? So this is the area where we are in danger. We as a researcher, we are in danger of, we can say that, to come into a charge that is called as plagiarism. Right, so we will talk about that later on. That how we can talk about that plagiarism and how we can avoid that plagiarism. Right, in this section. So you see that we do this. We usually write this section with the help of several techniques through paraphrasing or recording of the exact words. Right. So if a sort of charge can be put on us. Referencing without any acknowledgement, that can be called as plagiarism. Plagiarism, if I more elaborate this term, is an intellectual theft. That you actually do what, you steal the words of someone and take it as a part of yours, right? So this can be the charge that can be put on us in this section. So for avoiding, we have got several techniques. We will talk about those techniques, and we have got, that's why actually this is the thing that actually helps us in the area of citation. We earlier have talked about different styles, academic styles, citation styles. Actually, why we use these styling, we can say that styles, different citation styles, just to make our work more and more genuine. It indicates that my study is authentic one. That's why we usually quote these all areas, and we quote 15 to 20 different authors, or we can say that 10 to 15 different authors in this section. So it is based on the prior studies, right, that are actually the works that have already been done on your topic, the topic that you are going to talk about. Next is chapter number 3, research methodology. It is again based on 3 sections. So you see that your research methodology is always based on 3 sections. First one is research design, delimitation of the study. We earlier talked about, we actually write delimitation in, we can say that in our thesis 2 times. In our chapter number 1 and in chapter number 3 as well. Then comes theoretical framework, and this is the very important area of your, we can say that, research, where you are going to set your methodology. Methodology, I mean the systematic plan that you are going to adopt in your study. That would be called as methodology. So, first important thing that I have talked is research design. What do I mean by the research design is that whether my study would be qualitative, descriptive, analytical, experimental, quantitative, I have to mention this thing in this area. That what would be the design of my research. You see that every research has got its own particular design, right? For example, if you are in the area of literature, and you are analyzing a text, you are in the area where you are doing descriptive research, right? Descriptive research, your research is qualitative one. Is it clear? Then next is quantitative. If we talk about quantitative, if you are quantifying something, if you are measuring something, then your study would be quantitative. If you are doing some, we can say that experimental on a particular thing, then your study would be experimental one, and it has got a specific sort of procedure. So you see that every step has got, every type of research, every research design has got its own particular style, right? It depends again the area that you are going to select. Then delimitation of the study, again you have to talk about the delimitation as you have earlier talked about it in the chapter number 1. So you will talk that how you are going to narrow down your topic, how you are going to filter it down.
Ma'am, excuse me, what's the difference between delimitation and limitation?
Limitation is something else. Limitation is something that is based on, we can say that, उसके लिए हम एक term use करते हैं ना, हदबंदी, right? कि इससे आगे आप नहीं जा सकते. That is limitation. Delimitation is you are actually putting the filters on your topic, right? You are narrowing down. Let me give you the more general example. Our class की मैंने आपको example दिए, but you can take over here the example of keef, right? You will see that funnel or whatsoever is the term that we use for it in the labs section. You will see that it is actually the thing that is based on broad sort of area from the opening, and later on it is shrink one, narrow down, right? So this is how usually we add liquid into it, and then it comes in the form of a filter, right? In a very, we can say that the thing that we are desired to take, according to that we usually take it, right? If you have any questions, you can leave them, right? We'll discuss about all these things later on at the end, right? So you see that theoretical framework. Now this is the thing actually that you are going to talk about, and now this is the we can say that difficult area to choose as well after selecting a topic. That is theoretical framework. By theoretical framework I mean the tool that with the help of which I am going to conduct my study. So you can write your tools over here. So your tools can be many, right? Your tools can be, we can say that if we talk about quantitative studies, your tools can be different tests, questionnaires, interviews, surveys, right? There can be number of tools. But if you are in the area where you have to analyze the text, for example, if your research is descriptive in nature, right? Qualitative, if you are dealing with a text, then what type of tool you people are going to utilize, you have to mention in this section. And you can mention it in the form of a theory, that can be a model, that can be, we can say that, a concept, that can be any notion that you take and apply on the text. So usually you write your tool in this section that is called as theoretical frameworks. You have to determine the research tool, the tool that your research is going to utilize, right? So the next section is of chapter number 4. Chapter number 4 is again based on two important things. It's data presentation and analysis. The very name indicates that this is actually the section where you usually do your work. Up till now you were taking the benefits from some area else, right? So now you are in the area where you are purely in the area where you have to do, where you have to present your study, your work, right? So this is chapter number 4, and it is based on two important things. First one is analysis of the data, and second is the presentation of that data. So in the analysis of the data, you can use number of things, right? You can do number of analyses. For example, if you are dealing with a theory or a model, right, you can systematically go through from the analysis in the same systematic manner as is the demand of your theory, right? Your model, your concept, your notion, whatsoever you are going to deal with. Then how you are going to present your data. This is very important in this chapter number 4. Not only we have to analyze the data, we actually have to present it as well. We can present it in number of ways, like in the form of tables, in the form of figures, or we can say that there are so many other techniques that we usually in this section. So this is chapter number 4, and chapter number 5, last but not the least, is conclusion. So you will see that conclusion is based on 3 things: results, findings, and recommendations. So you see that results, as we have conducted earlier, bulk of research. So definitely it is based on several sort of results. So we have to talk about the results in this section. That can be many, that can be multiple. It is again based on the nature of the study that we are going to deal with. Then findings. Now this is the area where we usually answer the questions that are there. The research questions that we actually pose in the section in the chapter number 1. From over there we take those questions and try to answer in this section that is called as findings. Then last is recommendations. Recommendations, again, this is a very important area for, we can say that writing chapter number 5, that is conclusion. And over here we usually give the recommendations to the future researchers that where lies my limitation? Where lies my limitation of my topic? Over here you usually in the area of recommendations, you usually write your limitations that this is the area where I didn't work. So you can do, the future researchers can do the work in this area, right? So you usually write limitations in this section. Is it clear? Then next, last thing is references. References are something, again, over here in this section we usually take benefit out of our academic styles that we usually follow. Earlier I have told you that every academic writing is based on a particular sort of style. For example, if I am choosing APA as my style for my research, and as it is actually the demand of my subject, or we can say that department or institute, then what are the obligations, what are the rules that I have to follow during this whole writing process, right? It tells us that how we are going to accommodate all these things. So references are actually what? These are actually, we can call them as the material that we usually have taken inside our, or we can say that thesis, or we can say that chapter or book, whatsoever we are going to deal with in academic writing. So we usually refer to all those things. It's very much like an alphabetical sort of list of, we can say that, references that is sometimes called as bibliography, or we can say that references. This is again the demand of the style. According to that we select this thing. Then the last area of our, we can say that, thesis is appendix, right? Appendix is something that is based on the extra material that was related to your, we can say that, research study, but you were unable to put it in the section. For example, if I am dealing with quantitative sort of research, for example, and I have to put my questionnaires in my study. So you see that I didn't discuss anything that questionnaire would be there here. So this is the area where you can actually put your extra material like questionnaires, your surveys, your planned interviews, observations, if they are in written form or in any form. So you usually attach the extra material in this section that is called as appendix or appendices, right? So this is actually the thing that is related to your research thesis, right? So this was your whole research thesis. Now you see that after just knowing the format of research thesis, back to so you see that you are in need of several resources, additional resources, right? We can call them as. So for the said purpose, again APA manual I have with me. You can take it as, we can say that, guide. So you'll see that you'll see that APA has got several editions, out of which the latest one is 7th edition. So you can follow it in your research throughout. Again, it has got number of demands, number of styles. So if I talk about more about research thesis, so you see that it has got, according to APA, it has got a particular demand, like you'll see that it has got a particular font style, writing style, citation style, referencing style. All these styles actually from where we take actually from this manual, right? This manual is available with me. You'll see that everything is written in detail. You can take the guidance from that manual so that it can assist you in future for your research, right? So I think that much is enough for, we can say that, knowing just the structure of research. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining in today's seminar. Thank you so much.